Hey, what's up guys? This is Church of Caboose and welcome back to my corner of the internet. In this video, I want to show you guys how my team and I beat the fallen S.A.B.E.R strike on Grandmaster difficulty. Something to keep in mind is this is what worked really well for my team and I. Of course, there's going to be different strategies for different people and things that work well for them, but this is what works really well for us. And since I did this all off of LFG, I have a feeling this is going to work really well for most people in general. So keep that in mind as you are watching the video. I know Azatros loves using a different heavy weapon than I use in this loadout. So before we get on into the video, make sure you guys subscribe to my channel because it's the right thing to do, as well as like the video and comment down below. This kind of interaction and engagement helps my channel out, but also helps you guys out because it lets me know what kinds of content you guys like to see. So interacting with comments, letting me know if this was useful, as well as things that you found to perhaps work better for you and your team are greatly appreciated. So now that we've gotten through our intro and explained that things might be different, this is just kind of how my team did it, so let's go ahead and go on into this video. First up will be loadouts and fire team composition. Once again, we are relying heavily on anti-barrier sniper rifles as well as weapons like Anarchy. The champions in this strike are anti-barrier and overload, so I highly suggest you guys use sniper rifles, bows, and whatever heavy makes the most sense for you guys. So this is kind of our weapon loadout. We all had on kinetic snipers. I had on Point of the Stag for my bow for all the arc shields. Someone else had on a threaded needle and one of those energy void bows from the Season of the Chosen. And then another gentleman had on Tiku's Divination, that new exotic bow from this season. And our heavy slots, I had on Anarchy, the person with the exotic bow had on Code Duelo, and the other individual also had on Anarchy. This works really well for holding down areas where we do lots of ads respawning in beforehand, but we're going to kind of get into that a little bit later in the video with the actual guide part of the video. For fire team makeup, of course, it's a tried and true combo. We had 2 Ursa Furiosa Titans and 1 Warlock. Another common makeup I'm seeing so far is 2 Ursa Furiosa Titans and 1 Chaos Reach Warlock, but really the key seems to be here is to have 2 Ursa Furiosa Titans, because much like the Proving Grounds, there is tons and tons of areas where you got lots and lots of incoming damage, and it is incredibly nice to be able to sit out there in the open behind that banner shield, eliminating whatever's in front of you. Otherwise, it will take way longer. Not saying it's impossible, it's just going to be much more difficult and will probably take a lot more time. For some mods, we didn't really do anything a whole lot special. I had on a couple of concussive dampeners, just like the Proving Grounds. I had on finders for sniper rifles and grenade launchers, as well as scavengers for those 2 weapons. I did not worry about doing reserves, and you could do one of those special finishers, so that way if you finish an enemy, you get sniper rifle ammo to drop, but it comes at the cost of your super energy, so just kind of keep that in mind. If you're one of the 2 Titans, you might not want to run that just because you need to have your supers pretty much constantly cycling back and forth. So now that we've kind of gone through the loadouts, the team composition, as well as some mod suggestions, I also put on Sunder and Glare, by the way. Let's go ahead and kind of go a little bit by encounter and what our team did to get this done relatively quickly and without being a huge giant pain in the ass. This opening part of the Grandmaster was not nearly as difficult as my clan and I had assumed it would be. What we're going to use a lot of is distance and time, because we don't have to necessarily be in that zone the entire part of this duration of the Grandmaster. So all you really want to do is just be careful of the Warsat crashing down. It can kill you, so maybe just kind of wait for it to slam before you jump on the other side of the cliff. It has a huge radius and will either kill you or nearly kill you, so you might as well take a little bit of time. Then all you have to do for each section of this Grandmaster, of this little part, is just hop in that circle, wait for the next activity to kind of begin. For this beginning, it's going to be a skiff showing up. Then you just kind of run away, shoot off the skiff turret guns that you already saw on screen, and then deal with the ads. Once you've cleared out the ads, there's going to be a couple of waves, and eventually the ads will just stop. And that's because you need to charge up that circle a little bit more. So then we just run into the circle, kind of wait for more ads to start spawning in, maybe drop down some anarchy on the ground below where that skiff is at, because might as well, you know where ads are going to be, and it's a huge help. And then run away back to where we were at and use those bows or sniper rifles, whatever you got, in order to take out those ads. If you just repeat this over and over, this is not that bad. An average time for us of completing this section was around 5 to 8 minutes. 8 was a little bit slow. 5 seemed to be more or less the commonality. So you can see here, ads stopped spawning. We ran in. We see more ads are coming down, so we run away. Something I mentioned with Anarchy that you can do, that one of my teammates did, and I hope I do here on screen, is you can put some Anarchy down on the ground in the areas you know those ads are going to spawn. This works best for this first skiff because there's only one of them, and you can easily take out the gun and then move in closer. When you have the skiffs where there's the 2 of them on the side I'm currently at on screen, it does not work out quite as well, but it works really well for the area the skiff is at right now. Then all you have to do is just repeat this cycle over and over. Now, when you have the 2 skiffs spawn in, you switch complete opposite sides. So you see here on screen where I am at, then you would run to the other side, because where I'm at right now on screen is where those 2 skiffs are going to be approximately. So if you run to the absolute other end around where that skiff is at, that's where you want to be. Feel free to use your banner shields if you want, although we did not find them to be very useful. So the priority is going to go like this. Start the circle, skiff comes in, shoot the guns off of the, or run away and hide, shoot the guns off of the skiff, because you can defeat the skiff turrets, then deal with the ads. Once ads stop coming in, run into the circle, and you start the process all over. Do this enough times, and eventually you will finish this part of the Grandmaster. Now you might be thinking, Church, you spent a long ass time on this section of the fight. Why? And that's because my clan and my Discord was rather convinced this was going to be the hardest part of the Grandmaster, and to be honest, I was kind of in the same boat. This really is not that bad. There are, however, a couple of things to take note of. Assuming Arc is always going to be the burn for this S.A.B.E.R strike, and it currently is for the week of March 6th, you can get one shot by the snipers and by the skiff turrets. So there's going to be a couple of priorities. So we already talked about the skiff turrets, but there's lots of invis fallen, and coupled with blackout, it makes fallen incredibly lethal and easy to sneak up on you. Especially when you have these 2 skiffs that are coming in and you're dealing with the turrets, you might want to have one individual trying to pay attention to the ads, because snipers will come up on that cliffside, as well as a captain will come rushing you at some point around here on the edge when you have those 2 skiffs flying in. If you pay attention to the snipers and all of those ads and the skiff turrets, this part really isn't a huge deal. We usually only had 1, maybe sometimes 2 lives go away, and they were mostly because of us not paying attention to something, so it's not a crazy difficult part to complete. Now that we've covered this first section, let's go ahead and go on to the next big fight, and believe me, that one's going to be a lot quicker of an explanation, because it's not nearly as difficult if you do what my team and I did. Again, this section is not nearly as difficult as perhaps one would maybe assume. The key here is to use advantage of choke points and your banner shield. You can see here in this tunnel, we know nothing's going to spawn behind us and everything's going to be in front. So you're able to really spam the crap out of 2 players using these Ursas and banner shields. This is where they really come to shine inside of this Grandmaster. So here's kind of how we were doing our callouts. When someone's banner shield would get to that last little tick of health, we would start counting. Just do your best to approximate how many seconds are left. Usually when you get to that last little tick of your super, you got about 3 to 5 seconds. So we start counting 5, 4, 3, and on 3 is when the next super would pop their Ursas and give cover to the first one, because you don't want to have this weird little gap where that shield comes down and there's not a shield up, even if it's for a split second. Also, if you had that temporary little shield, the person that just lost their super can last second throw that little Captain America shield and maybe get a couple of ads. You never know, like you might not, but it's just kind of an extra little way to throw down some more damage without having to use tons of ammo. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That went away. I took a lot of damage. Sorry.
Are you at? Pay attention to my one more. And I got 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm out.
And you just cycle back and forth like this. Now, our team usually dealt with the ads and then the champions, but it's really up to you. This is an incredibly safe way of handling this room for the entirety of this encounter. However, there's going to be a couple of little tricks that I want to mention. On the sides, occasionally, Invis Marauders might try and sneak up. So you want to be, especially if you're the banner shield guy, just kind of trying to watch and pay attention if you see any Invis shiny stuff coming at you or anything of that nature. Or let people know if someone's about to, if an ad's about to flank around your shield and you're not able to stun them. Because the banner shield will put a little stun on any ads that walk into it. It's also worth noting that with Blackout, melees will for the most part kill you in one hit. What this means is if you're too close to the person with their banner shield up and a marauder or something swings at that guy at the banner shield dude will be fine. You, however, might get killed. So you want to have a little bit of distance between yourself and the person with the banner shield. I wish I could give you an exact number, like meters, but if you just stay back a couple of feet, in your perception, it should be just fine. Otherwise, that's more or less the gist of this encounter. Now, there is going to be a little part with overloads in the next phase, and we're going to kind of cut to that real quick because I want to show you guys what we did because it seemed to work really, really well. Alright, so we're going to have a part where we have to open up that little heat shield thing in the back, destroy a core, and then you have all those ads spawn in. Now, on the Grandmaster difficulty, it's not the best idea to stay by where you destroy the core. But what you can do is you have one person open up the cover, and they can run back and be kind of close to this hallway thing, and they're able to snipe the core, so they're right by this door and can get in. So what we did was we had one of our Furiosa Titans, he would open up that core, run back, snipe out the little core thing, pop his banner shield, and then come into this hallway, because as you saw on screen, there are 2 overloads that spawn right in here, and there's going to probably, I think there's one more that's in the room otherwise. So you have 3 champions in this room, plus whatever you got with those sniper shanks and invis, the other things of that nature. So you want to really take advantage again of this hallway. So if you saw what I did, I put down some anarchy because I knew the overloads were going to be there. We opened up the shield, our man with the Furiosas ran back, sniped it, popped his Furiosas, came into this tunnel while we were just shooting the crap out of those overloads, and then we dealt with the rest of this room as normal. Now, for the rest of this Grandmaster, there's only one other part I cover besides the boss fight, because basically every major fight you do in this exact same way. Take advantage of your Furiosas, take advantage of choke points where you know ads can't come from behind you or around on the side, and just work your way through everything. Do the ads, and then get the champions, and you will get through this no problem and get all the way to the boss fight. There's just one little segment I want to talk about, and that's the Arc Hall before we get to the actual boss fight. If you want more details on the rest of this, let me know in the comment section, and maybe I'll make a Grandmaster 2.0 for the Grandmaster S.A.B.E.R Fallen Strike. So let's go ahead and look at that little arc hallway. This strategy by one of the teammates actually works really well. Pretty much all we did was 2 of us stay back here in this little door thing, and we all try to take out whatever ads and snipers are currently in this little arc hallway area. Remember, these arc charges can kill you in one hit, so you cannot get hit by a single one. And how we did this was our Furiosa Titan, one of them, he went up, grabbed the core, and he just ran straight back, falling one of those arc charges. So you might want to make sure if you have a designated person, they have relatively good mobility. Probably 6 or higher should be rather useful. And just follow the charges back as fast as they possibly can. We put a little well right there, just that way if he was weak when he got to this section from the ads, it was not too big of a deal. Now, this little part is why you want things like concussive dampener on, or sniper rifle resistance, stuff like that, because all he did was he followed it straight back, went to this hallway while we destroyed the ads, and once he felt like we had the ads cleared out enough, he went through, deposited it, and then we were able to move on. Now remember, you might use a lifer here. It's really easy to die by accident, but that's okay. As long as you got a handful of lives, you're gonna probably be able to get to about 10 for the boss fight. So that's how you do this section, or at least how my team did this section. So now let's go ahead and go to the boss fight, because remember, the rest of this, all the rooms, you do this the exact same way as we showed in that first room. They all have champions, they all have choke points, and you have 2 banner shield titans, so you can take your sweet time, and you should be able to get to the boss fight with anywhere between 10 to 20 revives. The highest we had was 18, maybe 19. Alright, so let's go ahead and do the boss fight. This boss fight is all about timing, location, and controlling your decisions of when to start the next phase. Much like the arms dealer strike, This boss fight has multiple immune phases, but you control when you start the incoming flux of lots of more adds, as well as the boss being able to take damage. As you see on his little health bar, he's got 4 little sections. The first 2, you get a break between each one. He'll go immune, you have to deal with the anti-barrier servitor, but once the anti-barrier is down and all the other adds are down, I believe the anti-barrier is the catalyst, that will start the next phase. Once you get into half health, those last 2 bars of life will be continuous. So you do not want to start that last half of life until everyone is revived. Otherwise, you're just kind of shafting yourself a little bit more, because that's when things get chaotic. The boss starts chasing you, there's exploder shanks, there's sniper shanks, and it's just a lot more difficult. But in general, you see right here on this little corner, that is where we spent most of our time. There's not really arc spawning around because, again, the arc energy can kill you in one little tick. It's got good cover if you crouch from the boss and most of the adds, and is a pretty decent way to try and focus in some fire with your supers. Now, for actual damage, what we did, like you think you already saw on screen, is when we were ready for damage, we had set. Church would do first super, our other mate would do second super. So we'd do banner shield, and if we could, we'd have a well behind us. The goal we had was to damage the boss so much he would go right to his immune phase within a couple of seconds, and he'd pull back. So that way we could deal with all of the adds. And the theory we had was that then when we have the last half of life, we really only need to be able to be alive for about 10 to 30 seconds, because that's all we were needing, was about half of that for each of those damage phases. So the idea was to try and save some heavy for the last half of life, because he's going to be running around and things are chaotic. And we figured, hey, 2 banner shields, as long as they're not taking massive amounts of damage, should last anywhere 15 to 30 seconds between the 2 of us. And it worked. That's how we got through this boss fight. Now, it's really easy to die by accident, because in the first half of life, he's got that sniper, especially in that first quarter. So if you have someone go down a little bit close to the boss, you need to use a super to get their revive up, because banner shield is the only thing that will keep you safe from that boss. So make sure if you're using a banner shield for a revive, you are in front of the orbs. That way your teammate spawns behind you instead of in front of your banner shield, and they get shot again and insta-killed by any of those snipers, or most likely the boss. And you just kind of repeat this thing over and over. I found this to be a really fun fight. I really enjoyed this. This was a good challenge. It wasn't as frustrating as Proving Grounds just because you have more cover. However, the arc got really annoying. It took us a couple of runs where we had at least one person die because they got 1 nick of arc. Getting a revive can be really challenging. Another little tip I want to give you guys is when you're getting ready for that last half of damage and you have all those exploder shanks coming up, the left side is probably the best side to be on. Besides this little corner we are crouching on, a couple of shields pop up, kind of like the big little wall things from the Proving Grounds. And the boss, for some reason, unless he's in the arc phase, does not come up and chase you. So you're able to kind of hang out over there, deal with the adds, deal with the exploders, farm up your super energy, whatever it is that you need, and while the boss is just kind of chilling. Then eventually, boom, you get him all nice and done, destroy when you're like, yeah, let's do this, and you kill his happy butt. Something to keep in mind is remember the banner shield can do damage, and Anarchy does damage over time. You're going to probably see on screen how I was the last man standing and killed the boss, maybe with my banner shield, but definitely Anarchy from one of my teammates is what finished it off, and how we actually ended up successfully completing this thing. Now, we did not necessarily perfect this boss fight to absolute perfection, just because you saw like it barely worked at the end. Like, I was the last man standing. However, if this is something that works for me with an LFG group, you guys should be able to do this. It might take some finessing. You might have to kind of experiment a little bit, and that's okay. Part of the fun, I think, with Destiny and Grandmasters is just having to experiment and see what's going to work, what's not going to work. How do we get around this difficult part? And that is, at least to some degree, the S.A.B.E.R 2 strike, but it's not nearly as rough seeming as the Proving Grounds. I might have mentioned this in the Proving Grounds video, but I felt like that one was almost impossible when I first tried the tank room, and it took a lot more time of finessing before I was like, all right, this ain't a bad strike. It took us about 2 hours to figure out this strike, and to get it beaten on Grandmaster here, and one poor guy in the fire team had been trying all day because he was working with only LFG, and then I was really glad we were able to do this with him. Alright, so that is going to be the video. I'm going to kind of let the boss fight play out here a little bit. I appreciate you guys all very, very much for watching. Please let me know down below if you found this video to be at all useful. Are these tricks nifty and things that you're like, I hadn't thought of that, or something that just worked out really well for you and your team? I've done Grandmasters now with teams where we didn't have comms because none of us spoke the same language, and we somehow beat the thing. We were using teabagging to signal when supers were out, and we were just having to pay a lot of intuitive attention to try and figure out what was going to work, what wasn't going to work, and I don't know, that was just an extra kind of a fun thing. And that's part of what I like with Grandmasters, is just the kind of the creativity that goes on in behind this. Alright guys, I am Church of Caboose. I really thank you guys all so much for watching. Subscribe because it's right, comment down below, and like the video. Have a great week, and happy grinding, y'all.